I watched my best friend destroy himself being the good guy. He gave everything. He forgave everyone. He sacrificed his peace, his time, his energy for people who didn't even remember his name the next day. For 3 years, I watched him shrink, watched him bend, watched him disappear piece by piece, believing that if he just gave a little more, the world would finally give back. Then one day, I saw him again, and he wasn't broken anymore. He was something else entirely, something I had never seen in him before. He was ruthless, not cruel, not cold. Ruthless. There is a difference. And he told me something that day that I have never forgotten. He said, "The world didn't change. I did. I stopped being easy to break." That sentence stayed with me, because deep down I realized it wasn't just his story, it was mine. And if you're honest with yourself, it's yours too. Right now, there are 2 versions of you. Version 1 is the one you've been living as, the one that explains, the one that apologizes, the one that tolerates, the one that keeps hoping, keeps forgiving, keeps bending, believing that eventually people will see your worth. But the more you give, the less they value what you offer. Then there is version 2, the silent one, the certain one, the one who doesn't argue, doesn't beg, doesn't chase, the one who simply removes, without noise, without guilt, without explanation. You have been version 1 for too long, and it is killing you. It has made you soft where you need to be sharp, kind where you need to be calculated. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." He was not talking about cruelty. He was talking about control, about knowing when to stop being the person who breaks so others can feel comfortable. Today, I'm going to show you how to awaken version 2, the 8 shifts that separate these 2 versions of you. Each one will demand a piece of your old self. Each one will feel uncomfortable. But if you stay until the end, you will walk away unrecognizable to the person you were before. You will stop seeking peace from others and start generating it from within. This is not a guide to becoming a villain. This is a guide to becoming untouchable. And in this world, there is no greater power. The first transformation begins with a realization that is painful but necessary. Your biggest weakness was never your heart. It was where you placed it. You have been bleeding energy into people who feed off your light, but never once return it. You kept helping. You kept forgiving. You kept explaining your worth, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they would finally see it. But they never did. And the reason is not because you failed. The reason is rooted in psychology itself. In the psychology of power, what is freely given is subconsciously devalued. This is not opinion. This is pattern. People instinctively equate generosity with inferiority. They assume that if you give too easily, if you forgive too quickly, if you stay too willingly, it must be because you need to be liked. And the moment someone senses your need, they own you. That is how weakness is born. Not from failure, not from bad luck, from emotional dependence, disguised as kindness. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He wrote, "Men are quicker to offend one who is loved than one who is feared. The ungrateful exploit your goodness precisely because they do not fear losing it. They know you will stay. They know you will forgive. They know that no matter how badly they treat you, you will rationalize their behavior. You will say things like, 'They're going through something,' or 'They don't mean it.' That is not compassion. That is self-delusion, dressed up as empathy. Here is the truth that most people refuse to accept. People remember pain far more than they remember kindness. They respect consequences far more than they respect explanations. The more predictable your mercy becomes, the more invisible you become. Every single time you tolerated disrespect, you trained them. You trained them to see you as disposable. Every time you explained your worth, you confirmed that you had to prove it. And that is the silent psychology behind why the good get broken first. The world does not destroy you because you are kind. It destroys you because you confuse being kind with being harmless. Those two things are not the same. Kindness without teeth is just an open door to exploitation. The ungrateful are predators. They do not hunt your body. They hunt your guilt. They make you feel bad for protecting yourself. They twist your own empathy into a weapon and use it against you. And you let them, because you were taught that loyalty means staying, that love means forgiving, that being a good person means tolerating what should never be tolerated. So stop thinking you owe anyone your loyalty simply because you once cared about them. Your care is a privilege. It is not a right. It was never a right. Give it only to those who have earned it consistently, through action, not words. Everyone else should feel the sharpness of your absence. Detachment is your defense. Indifference is your revenge. And when you stop answering every call, stop forgiving every lie, stop explaining your silence, the ungrateful will panic. They will realize they can no longer feed off your emotional reactions. That is when the power shifts. You become the one who decides who gets access to your energy, and those who never valued it will spend the rest of their lives wondering what changed. Pain is the purest teacher in the world, because it never lies. It doesn't flatter your ego. It doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't soften itself for your comfort. It exposes you. It strips you. It burns everything weak inside you until only the real version of you remains. The difference between the broken and the powerful is never the amount of pain they felt. Everyone feels pain. Everyone suffers. The difference is what they did with it afterward. Weak people drown in their pain because they keep searching for fairness. They still believe, somewhere deep down, that the world owes them healing, that suffering should come with an apology, that betrayal should come with an explanation. But ruthless minds, the minds that actually evolve, they know the truth. Pain is currency. You either spend it building yourself, or you waste it complaining to people who will never fully understand. The ones who rise from destruction are not lucky. They are strategic. They look at betrayal, at heartbreak, at failure, and instead of asking, why me? They ask a different question entirely. They ask, what is this teaching me about control? Machiavelli understood this at his core. He wrote, never waste the opportunity offered by a good crisis. Every moment of suffering carries within it an opportunity to evolve into someone the world cannot predict and cannot break. Pain is not punishment, it is information. Think about it. Every betrayal shows you exactly who you trusted too easily. Every rejection reveals where you placed your worth that you should not have. Every loss exposes the illusion that anything in this world is permanent. When you start viewing pain through that lens, as data, as information, as raw material, it stops being a wound. It becomes a weapon. The dark psychology of true transformation lives in this transmutation, in turning suffering into strategy. Most people cry to feel better. The strong reflect to get stronger. When they are hurt, they do not chase closure. They do not seek revenge immediately. They create power. They study the people who hurt them instead of hating them. They analyze their own mistakes instead of running from them. They turn every heartbreak into emotional discipline and every disappointment into sharper focus. That is the essence of Machiavellian resilience, to use the world's cruelty as fuel, not as chains. Pain is the forge where dominance is born. When life breaks you open, it is showing you who you really are, without masks, without pretense, without the version of yourself you built to please others. Stop running from that moment. Sit with it. Feel every ounce of the fire. Because once you survive your own suffering, truly survive it, no one else can control you with fear. The moment you stop fearing pain, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is one of the most dangerous forms of power. When others try to manipulate you through guilt or through rejection, it will no longer work, because you have already been through worse, and you lived. The next time life hurts you, do not curse it. Study it. Ask yourself, what advantage is hidden here? Because every moment of agony carries a seed of dominance, if you are ruthless enough to plant it. The hunger to be understood is the trap that keeps powerful minds chained to mediocrity. You have spent your entire life explaining yourself, hoping that if you just said it clearly enough, people would finally see your intentions, your goodness, your truth. But here is the harsh reality that most people are not willing to face. Most people do not care to understand you. They care to categorize you. They do not listen to comprehend. They listen to find weakness. The more you explain, the more information you hand them. And information in the wrong hands becomes ammunition. In dark psychology, understanding equals control. When people know your motives, they know how to manipulate you. That is why the truly powerful stay silent. They let others guess, project, assume. And in that confusion, they remain untouchable. Machiavelli wrote, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." And to command, you must never over-explain. Because explaining is a defensive act. It reveals that you still care what others think. It reveals that you still seek validation. Power doesn't justify itself. It simply exists. It simply occupies space. The most intimidating people you have ever encountered were not the loud ones. They were the composed ones, the ones who didn't explain why they acted the way they did. Why did they disappear? Why do they change? Their silence created tension. And that tension, that quiet, persistent tension, created respect. The weak beg to be seen. The strong choose to be misunderstood. And that choice is not passive. It is deliberate. Because when you stop defending yourself, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is fear's twin. People cannot control what they cannot read. That is why rulers and strategists throughout history mastered the art of ambiguity. They spoke less than they knew. They acted more than they explained. Every time you rush to explain your intentions, you give away the blueprint of your emotional architecture. You are teaching others how to disarm you. The dangerous thing about being transparent is that it invites dissection, and dissection always kills the power. You do not owe anyone clarity about your choices. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your distance, your silence, your standards, or the way you have changed. Let them misunderstand. Let them assume you have become cold, arrogant, and detached. Every false label they place on you adds another layer to your armor. The moment you stop trying to correct them, you regain control. Because control lives in restraint. Silence is not weakness. Silence is weaponized composure. It makes others nervous because they cannot predict your next move, and uncertainty makes them cautious. That is psychological dominance without a single word being spoken. Think about the most powerful people you have ever been in a room with. They were not loud. They were composed. Their presence demanded attention, not because they shouted, but because they did not need to. Every word they did not say spoke louder than 1,000 justifications ever could. You must become that kind of presence. A mystery no one can fully grasp. A storm that does not announce itself before it arrives. When someone tries to provoke you, let your silence suffocate their ego. When someone misjudges you, let them sit in their own assumption. Those who need to understand you do not deserve to. Those who truly value you will never need an explanation. Once you stop needing to be understood by others, you finally begin to understand yourself. Begging for attention, love, or closure is how the powerful become slaves. The more you chase what is walking away from you, the smaller you become in the eyes of those who never intended to value you in the first place. This is not an opinion. This is the fundamental law of human psychology. The one who chases always loses power. Always. Detachment is not coldness. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Detachment is control. It is the skill of walking away from anything at all, that threatens your self-respect, no matter how much you wanted it, no matter how much it hurt to let go. Most people mistake attachment for loyalty, but they are opposites. Loyalty is strength. It is deliberate, informed, and chosen. Attachment is dependence. It is emotional, desperate, and blind. The world has conditioned you to believe that fighting for people proves your care, that staying when things get hard is the noble thing to do. But in dark psychology, the one who chases always loses power. The act of begging, whether for time, affection, or attention, broadcasts weakness. And weakness invites exploitation, like blood invites sharks. Machiavelli wrote, "The one who is not master of himself cannot be master of others." When your emotions rule you, you are easy to control. Simple, transparent, predictable. The ruthless detach, not because they lack emotion. They feel deeply, many of them, but because they refuse to be owned by what they feel. When someone pulls away, they do not argue, they do not explain, they observe. When someone disrespects them, they do not plead, they vanish. Silence becomes their sword, and absence becomes their message. In a world that is built on emotional manipulation, detachment is the ultimate rebellion. It terrifies manipulators because it eliminates their power source entirely. And their power source is your reaction. Once you stop reacting, you become unreadable. And when you're unreadable, you become feared. The secret weapon of the powerful is not rage. It is not anger. It is indifference. Indifference burns colder than hate, and it lasts longer than love. When people can no longer predict how you will respond, they lose their grip on your mind. That is the moment your energy begins to shift. You stop being the one who waits. You start being the one who decides. The people who once ignored you will start to notice your silence. Because silence from a person who used to react, that silence is louder than any confrontation could ever be. Detachment gives you a strange kind of authority, the authority to walk away from chaos with your peace completely intact. Machiavelli believed that control over one's emotions was the foundation of every successful ruler. Those who cannot detach are doomed to be controlled by those who can. It is that simple. The ruthless understand three things that the rest of the world refuses to accept. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not every emotion deserves expression. And not every relationship deserves revival. You must learn to withdraw your energy without announcement, to close doors quietly, to make your distance feel like the consequence it is. True strength is not holding on. True strength is knowing when to let go, even when it hurts, even when everything in you is screaming to stay and fight and prove yourself. Because when you stop begging, you stop bleeding. And when you stop bleeding, no one can feed on you again. Boundaries are the invisible walls that separate power from chaos. Without them, your life becomes an open field. Anyone can walk in. Anyone can take what they want. And anyone can leave you empty, without consequence, without accountability, without even realizing what they took. You have been taught your entire life that saying no is selfish, that setting limits makes you unkind, that being a good person means being available, always available, to everyone who needs something from you. But in truth, the absence of boundaries is not kindness, it is self-betrayal. Every time you tolerated disrespect, every time you forgave without consequence, every time you let someone cross a line just to keep the peace, you surrendered a piece of yourself, and those pieces do not grow back on their own. Weak people confuse tolerance with strength. They think that enduring mistreatment without reaction is somehow noble. The ruthless know better. They understand that a heart without armor is simply a target. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince who is not wise himself cannot be well advised." The meaning is simple. If you cannot guard yourself, no one will do it for you. The world does not honor openness. It exploits it. The people who smile at your kindness today will use your forgiveness tomorrow. That is not cynicism. That is the nature of unchecked human desire. People always test the limits you refuse to enforce. They push until they find resistance. And if they never find it, they never stop pushing. Boundaries are not walls meant to keep others out. They are gates, gates that protect what is sacred inside you. They are not cruel, they are clear. And clarity terrifies manipulators because it removes their leverage entirely. In dark psychology, boundaries are weapons of control. The person who enforces them dictates the terms of every single relationship they're in. When you calmly say no, without guilt, without over-explanation, you communicate dominance. When you cut off access after betrayal, you announce that your worth is non-negotiable. The powerful do not argue about respect. They demonstrate it through distance. Forgiveness without consequences is submission. Mercy without structure invites chaos. The moment you stop rewarding bad behavior with your presence, something shifts. The people who once disrespected you begin to go quiet. The fearful will call it arrogance. The weak will label it ego. But the wise will recognize it for exactly what it is: self-command. Machiavelli also said, "He who allows himself to be deceived is deserving of deception." You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. That is the most important lesson in this entire guide. Read it again. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. The moment you start protecting your space, truly protecting it, the parasites vanish, the noise fades, your peace returns, and that is when you finally see who actually values you. Those are the people who respect your rules instead of resenting them. Boundaries attract quality and repel corruption. They filter the loyal from the opportunistic. They make your presence feel earned, not available. To live without boundaries is to live without dignity. To live with them is to command your world with quiet authority. Every boundary you set is a declaration. It says, "This is where my peace begins," and those who truly belong in your life will never ask you to lower your armor. Silence is the weapon the powerful use when words lose their value. Most people fear silence. They fear it because it exposes their lack of control. But they talk to fill the air, to prove their confidence, to seek validation through noise. They speak because the alternative, stillness, makes them uncomfortable. But every unnecessary word you speak becomes ammunition. It becomes material for someone else to use against you. The wise understand that in a world addicted to talking, silence is dominance. Machiavelli wrote, "Never reveal all your thoughts, for it makes you predictable and vulnerable." The moment people can read your emotions clearly, they can calculate your reactions, and the one who can predict you can control you. Silence makes you unreadable. It builds an atmosphere of mystery that forces others to second-guess themselves constantly. The quiet man in the room always holds more power than the one shouting for attention. This is not a metaphor. This is a psychological reality. In dark psychology, silence is not emptiness. It is a strategy. It shifts the balance of control without confrontation, without argument, without effort. When you say nothing, you let others reveal everything. They expose their insecurities, their motives, their weaknesses, all while trying to understand yours. The ruthless use this to their advantage. They listen more than they speak. They observe more than they explain. They act more than they promise. The weak rush to prove their point. The strong wait for the perfect moment. Every pause you hold in a conversation increases your authority. Every time you let others fill the silence, they unknowingly surrender information. Machiavelli believed that power thrives in perception. The fewer people who know about your intentions, the more they fear them. Silence creates psychological tension. It makes others project their own fears onto you. They start wondering what you are thinking, what you might do next, and that uncertainty gives you invisible control over the room without doing a single thing. This is why silence is not absence. Its presence is magnified. You do not need to shout to be heard. Your restraint speaks louder than chaos ever could. The loudest person in any room rarely holds power. They crave it, but the silent one already possesses it. The rulers of history understood this truth. The less you reveal, the more they imagine. The more they imagine, the more carefully they move around you. You must learn to weaponize your calm, to use silence as your language. When someone insults you, stay silent and watch them unravel in their own discomfort. When someone provokes you, give no reaction. and let their own desperation expose them to everyone watching. Your silence will echo louder than any argument you could ever make. People expect noise. They are prepared for noise. They fear stillness. In stillness lies control. The moment you stop explaining, you shift from emotional to strategic. You stop playing defense and start commanding the game entirely. Power does not beg to be understood. It demands to be felt. Silence makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability breeds respect. Loyalty is a weapon, but only when it is selective. The moment you give it blindly to anyone, it becomes your cage. Machiavelli warned us plainly, men are ungrateful, fickle, and deceitful. To expect pure loyalty in return is to invite betrayal. Power belongs to those who know when to align and when to withdraw. The world is not moved by goodness. It is moved by strategy. When you show absolute loyalty to anyone, a friend, a mentor, a leader, an idea, you surrender your independence. You hand them something they did not earn, and they will begin to view your devotion not as virtue, but as weakness. The loyal are predictable, and in the game of power, predictability is death. Dark psychology teaches that loyalty must be a calculated act, never an emotional one. True Machiavellian loyalty is conditional. It serves your growth. It serves your protection. It serves your rise. Once it stops serving those things, it must be reevaluated. Not out of cruelty, out of strategy. Most people remain loyal out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being labeled untrustworthy. Fear of losing approval. But these are the same people who end up discarded, betrayed, or replaced the moment they stop being useful. The powerful never attach themselves to the person. They attach to the opportunity. They know alliances shift like tides. They do not resist the current. They ride it. Your loyalty should be a mask, not your identity. You wear it when it benefits you. You remove it when it becomes a liability. This is not cruelty. This is realism. The world rewards those who think clearly, not those who feel deeply and act blindly. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise man ought never to make himself depend wholly on one thing or one person." Dependence kills autonomy, and autonomy is the root of dominance. Never reveal where your true allegiance lies. Let people believe you are on their side, but remain free internally. The illusion of loyalty is far more powerful than loyalty itself. It keeps others comfortable while keeping you completely untouchable. In politics, in business, and in personal life, this is how empires are built. Kings fall because they trust too deeply. Subordinates are eliminated because they serve too faithfully without questioning. Friends turn enemies because they expect equality in a world governed by hierarchy. When you are too loyal, people stop respecting you. They test your boundaries. They exploit your devotion. They stop fearing your withdrawal. And fear, quiet, consistent fear, is what maintains order. When people know you can walk away without hesitation, without drama, without tears, they treat your loyalty as the privilege it is, not as a guarantee. You must learn to give loyalty like a sword, sharp, deliberate, only when it cuts in your favor. Never give it like a gift. Gifts are forgotten. Weapons are remembered. This mindset makes you unpredictable, and that is the ultimate psychological advantage. They cannot manipulate someone they cannot define. That is the essence of power. To remain a mystery in plain sight, loyal in appearance, sovereign in reality. Becoming untouchable is the ultimate evolution of power. It is the point where no insult can pierce you, no betrayal can shake you, no manipulation can reach you. This state is not about cruelty. It is not about arrogance. It is about complete sovereignty over yourself, over your mind, over your reactions, over your peace. The world will always throw chaos at you. People will always test your patience. Circumstances will never bend perfectly to your desires. The weak will break under this pressure. The fearful will react. The unprepared will crumble, but the untouchable, they move through the storm, unmoved, unshaken, unowned. Machiavelli wrote, "He who is wise will be master of himself, for he who is mastered by others is never free." True freedom is not about money or status or escape. It is about inner mastery. It is about reaching a place where the external world simply cannot dictate how you feel. To become untouchable, you must stop chasing love, approval, and validation. These are not foundations. They are illusions, and they are traps that keep you tethered to other people's moods. The world does not reward kindness, nor does it honor virtue. It respects power. It respects self-possession. It respects the man or woman who walks into a room already complete. When you stop relying on others to feed your sense of worth, your energy transforms. It becomes a fortress. It shields you from manipulation, from deceit, from distraction. The untouchable build themselves deliberately. They invest in skills, in discipline, in strategy, rather than in approval. They cultivate patience, presence, and quiet confidence. Their reputation is earned not through noise, but through consistency. Dark psychology reveals that people fear what they cannot control. Once you detach from expectation, from the need to be understood, from the need to be loved, from the need to be validated, you become a psychological enigma. No one can predict your moves. No one can pull strings on your mind. You have removed the levers entirely. The untouchable do not act out of emotion. They act from strategy. Anger is measured. Fear is irrelevant. Desire is disciplined. Every reaction is intentional. Every silence is meaningful. You become the axis around which chaos spins, while you remain unmoved by the storms that collapse everyone around you. Being feared is not about terror. It is about presence. It is about control. It is about the awareness, shared by everyone in the room, that crossing you has a cost. Untouchability is the ability to make people hesitate before they test you. It is the quiet declaration that you are no longer accessible for exploitation. No betrayal can unsettle you. No insult can shake you. Because you are complete within yourself. You are no longer a reflection of other people's opinions. You are the sum of your own strategy and your own willpower. To reach this stage, you must shed the last remnants of dependence, the need to justify, the need to forgive what should not be forgiven, the need to be recognized. The untouchable do not flinch because they understand the impermanence of everything external. They are anchored to themselves, and that anchor cannot be uprooted by circumstance. When you reach this level, power becomes effortless. People sense it before you speak. They either respect it or fear it, but they cannot ignore it. You are no longer a participant in the manipulations of others. You are the standard. The world will try to break you. It will test your patience. It will betray your trust. It will punish your kindness and reward your silence. For too long, you allowed others to dictate your peace. You gave your energy to the unworthy. You begged for understanding. You let attachment chain you to disappointment. But that ends here. You now have the blueprint. 8 shifts, 8 transformations. Each one strips away a layer of the version of you that was vulnerable to this world. You have learned to stop giving to the ungrateful. You have turned your pain into power. You have killed the need to be understood. You have detached from what drains you. You have built unbreakable boundaries. You have mastered silence. You have wielded loyalty with precision. And you have evolved into someone untouchable. None of this is luck. None of it is easy. But every step you take in this direction strips the world of its leverage over you. Every challenge becomes a tool. Every betrayal becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes proof that you are no longer available for exploitation. The untouchable are forged in fire, sharpened by strategy, protected by self-mastery. You are no longer the version that bends. You are the version that rules.